The alarm screamed through every corridor of the ship. Red lights flashed in the darkness. Captain Deho gripped the arms of his command chair as the vessel shook violently around him. Another hit to the port side. His officer shouted over the noise. Shields down to 30%. Deho watched the view screen as purple energy bolts streaked past their ship. The enemy vessels were faster and stronger, much stronger. His crew had stumbled into something they were not ready for. "Return fire and prepare to jump," Deho ordered. His voice stayed calm even though his heart pounded in his chest. "Get us out of here." The Horizon's Edge was an exploration ship, not a warship. They had come to this star system 3 days ago to study the planets and moons. Nobody expected to find an alien fleet waiting for them. Nobody expected war. The aliens called themselves Velkari. Their ships were sleek and dark, covered in strange symbols that glowed with purple light. When the humans arrived, the Velkari attacked immediately. No warning. No communication. Just weapons, fire, and death. Deho had lost 6 crew members in the first minutes of fighting. Good people. People with families back on Earth. "Captain, one of their smaller ships broke away from the fleet," the sensor officer reported. "It's damaged. Looks like our last missile hit it." On the screen, Deho watched a small Velkari craft spinning out of control. It crashed into the surface of a nearby moon, throwing up a massive cloud of dust and debris. "Sir, jump drive is ready," his pilot announced. Deho stared at the crash site on the moon. His training told him to leave. His orders were clear. If you encounter hostile aliens, gather information and retreat. Do not engage. Do not take risks. But something made him hesitate. "Captain, we need to go now," his second officer urged. "The main fleet is turning toward us." Deho made his decision. "Take us down to that moon, near the crash site." "Sir?" The pilot turned to look at him with wide eyes. "You heard me. That ship might have intelligence we can use. Technology. Information about their weapons or tactics. We need every advantage we can get." It was not the whole truth. Deho had another reason. If anyone survived that crash, they were dying down there. Enemy or not, leaving them felt wrong. The Horizon's Edge dove toward the moon's surface. The pursuing Velkari ships fired at them but missed. Deho's pilot was skilled, weaving through the weapons fire until they disappeared behind the curve of the moon. They landed roughly near the crashed ship. The Velkari craft had dug a long trench through the rocky ground before coming to rest against a cluster of boulders. Smoke poured from multiple hull breaches. "I'm taking a team down," Deho announced, standing from his chair. "If those ships come around the moon, you jump without us. Understood?" "Captain, I must protest." "That's an order," Deho said firmly. He grabbed a breathing mask and a weapon from the emergency locker. 5 minutes later, Deho and 3 other crew members stood outside the crashed ship. The moon had thin atmosphere but not enough to breathe normally. They could hear the metal of the alien craft groaning and creaking as it cooled. "Spread out," Deho commanded. "Look for a way inside. And be careful. We don't know if there are hostile survivors in there." They found an opening where the hull had torn open. Deho climbed through first, his weapon ready. Inside, the ship was dark except for a few flickering lights. The interior was designed for beings taller than humans. Everything looked organic somehow, with curved walls and soft edges. "Over here," one of his team called out. Deho moved toward the voice and froze. 2 Velkari lay on the floor. One was clearly dead, her neck bent at an impossible angle. The other was pinned under a fallen beam, breathing weakly. The living Velkari was unlike anything Deho had ever seen. Her skin was deep purple with patterns that shimmered like oil on water. She had 4 eyes, 2 where human eyes would be, and 2 more on her temples. Her body was humanoid but elongated, with 4-fingered hands that ended in delicate claws. What shocked Deho most was that she wore no uniform. These were not soldiers. These were civilians. The injured Velkari's 4 eyes focused on him. She tried to speak but only managed a wet cough. Blood, dark blue in color, stained her mouth. Then Deho heard it. A small sound. crying. He moved deeper into the wreckage and found a child pinned under debris. The little Valkyrie looked maybe 6 years old by human standards. She had the same purple skin as the adult but lighter, almost lavender. Her 4 eyes were squeezed shut as she sobbed and called out in her alien language. "Captain, we found their communication system," someone reported over the radio. "Should we pull the data?" Deho did not answer immediately. He looked at the dying adult, then at the trapped child. The adult Valkyrie was trying to reach toward the child with one hand, her face twisted in anguish. The adult spoke. Her words were alien, but her tone was universal. She was begging. Deho made his choice. He holstered his weapon and moved to the child. "Help me lift this," he ordered his team, pointing at the metal beam trapping the little one. "Sir, are you sure?" "Now," Deho said. Together they lifted the beam enough for Deho to pull the child free. She screamed and fought against him, terrified. The adult Valkyrie watched with her 4 eyes growing dim. She reached out and touched Deho's hand. She whispered one word that sounded like Hana, then she stopped breathing. The child, Hana, screamed louder. "Captain, the Valkyrie fleet is coming around the moon," the radio crackled. "You have maybe 2 minutes." Deho wrapped the struggling child in his jacket and lifted her. "Move, now." They ran back to their ship. The child fought him the whole way, crying and calling out for her mother. Deho's heart felt heavy, but he did not let go. The Horizon's Edge launched just as the Valkyrie warships appeared on the horizon. Purple energy bolts chased them into space. The jump drive engaged and they vanished, leaving the battle behind. In the medical bay, the ship's doctor examined the alien child while Deho watched. Hana had stopped screaming, but she shook with fear and grief. Her 4 eyes stared at him with confusion and terror. "She's bruised, but nothing broken," the doctor reported. "She'll live." "Captain, what are we going to do with an enemy child?" Deho had no answer. He only knew one thing. He had crossed a line today. He had disobeyed orders and brought an enemy aboard his ship. Command would call it treason. His crew would be divided. His career was probably over, but when he looked at little Hana, frightened and alone, he knew he would make the same choice again. "Keep her comfortable," he said quietly. "She just lost her mother. That's all that matters right now." The doctor nodded slowly. As Deho left the medical bay, he could hear the child crying softly behind him. The sound followed him all the way back to his quarters. War had found humanity in the stars, and in the middle of that war, Deho had done something that would change everything. He had chosen compassion over duty. He had chosen one life over the hatred of entire species. He just did not know yet how much that choice would cost him. 3 months had passed since Deho pulled the alien child from the wreckage. 3 months of running and hiding. 3 months of watching over his shoulder and jumping at shadows. The rain fell hard on New Busan, a small colony world on the edge of human space. Deho pulled his hood lower over his face as he walked through the crowded market. Beside him, wrapped in a large cloak that hid her purple skin, Hana stayed close to his leg. She had grown more comfortable with him over the months. She no longer screamed when he approached. She no longer refused to eat. But she still had nightmares almost every night, crying out for her mother in the Valkyrie language. "Stay close," Deho murmured to her. He spoke slowly in simple words she could understand. His Valkyrie was terrible but getting better. Hana was a patient teacher. They moved through the market stalls, buying supplies with the last of Deho's credits. Food, medicine, a small toy that made Hana's 4 eyes brighten with interest. These small moments of normalcy felt precious and fragile. Deho worked at the spaceport now, doing repairs on ships for cash under a false name. The other workers did not ask questions. On the frontier, many people had secrets. Many were running from something, but today felt different. Wrong somehow. Deho noticed the man in the gray jacket first. He was standing too still, watching the crowd too carefully. Then Deho spotted the woman near the fruit stand. She had the same look. "Hunters, we need to go," Deho said quietly to Hana. He took her small 4-fingered hand in his and began walking quickly toward the market exit. They were almost clear when someone stepped into their path. a large man with scars across his face and cold eyes. "Captain Deho," the man said with a smile. "Been looking for you." "You have the wrong person," Deho replied, moving to walk around him. The scarred man grabbed his arm. "I don't think so. There's a nice reward for you, and an even bigger one for the alien freak you're hiding." Hana made a small, frightened sound. Deho felt anger flash through him, hot and sharp. "Let go," Deho said softly. "Dangerously." The bounty hunter laughed. "Or what? You going to fight me here in front of everyone?" Deho did not answer with words. He moved fast, twisting the man's arm and sweeping his legs. The bounty hunter crashed into a fruit stand, scattering produce everywhere. People screamed and scattered. "Run," Deho shouted to Hana. They ran through the market with 3 bounty hunters chasing them. Deho knew these streets well now. He pulled Hana through narrow alleys and across rain-slicked rooftops. But the hunters were good. They stayed close. Deho could hear more footsteps joining the chase. How many were there? 5, 6? Someone had put serious money on his head. They burst out onto the spaceport landing field. Ships sat in rows, loading and unloading cargo. Deho's eyes locked onto a small transport vessel with its boarding ramp down. The crew was busy with cargo containers, not paying attention. "There!" he gasped to Hana, pointing. They sprinted across the wet tarmac. Behind them, the bounty hunters shouted. Someone fired a weapon. The shot went wide, hitting the ground near Deho's feet. Hana screamed. Deho scooped her up and ran harder, his lungs burning. They reached the ship's ramp and ran inside. Deho sealed the hatch behind them and ran for the cockpit. The pilot, a young woman with grease-stained hands, looked up in shock. "What the—" "I'm commandeering this vessel," Deho said, pulling his weapon. "I'm sorry. I'll leave it somewhere safe, I promise." The pilot raised her hands. "Are you crazy? You can't just steal a ship. Watch me." Deho sat in the pilot's seat and began the launch sequence. He had not flown in months, but his hands remembered. The engines roared to life. Through the window he could see the bounty hunters running toward them. One was shouting into a communicator. Port security would be coming soon. "Please get off my ship," the pilot begged. Deho looked at her. Then he looked at Hana, who was clutching a cargo strap with all 4 hands, her eyes wide with fear. He made a decision. "Come with us," he said to the pilot. "If I leave you here, they'll think you helped me. They'll make your life difficult. Come with us and I'll make sure you get your ship back safely." The pilot stared at him for a long moment. Then she sat in the co-pilot seat and began flipping switches. "You're insane. But the Port Authority already hates me anyway. Let's go." The ship lifted off just as security vehicles arrived. Energy bolts flashed past them, but the pilot was skilled. She wove through the air traffic and punched the engines, sending them up through the atmosphere. In orbit, Deho programmed a jump to a random set of coordinates. Anywhere away from here. The ship's jump drive hummed and reality twisted around them. When they emerged in normal space, they were alone. No colonies nearby, no ships, just empty space and distant stars. Deho finally allowed himself to breathe. He turned to check on Hana. The child was shaking but unhurt. She looked at him and said softly in broken human language, "Thank you, Appa." The word hit Deho like a physical blow. Appa, father. She had never called him that before. She looked embarrassed as soon as she said it, her purple skin darkening slightly. "It's okay," Deho said gently. "You can call me that." "If you want," Hana nodded slowly. Then she moved to him and hugged his leg, something she rarely did. Deho rested his hand on her head, feeling the strange texture of her alien hair. The pilot, whose name was Mirai, watched this with a confused expression. "So, what exactly is going on here? Who are you people?" Deho sighed. "That's a long story." "We got time," Mirai said, gesturing at the empty space around them. "Start talking," so Deho told her. About the battle. About finding Hana in the wreckage. About the court-martial and becoming a fugitive. About 3 months of running and hiding, trying to keep one alien child safe in a universe that wanted them both dead. When he finished, Mirai was quiet for a long time. "That's the stupidest thing I ever heard," she said finally. Deho nodded. "I know. You threw away your career, your life, everything, for an enemy kid. Yes. Because it was the right thing to do. Yes." Mirai shook her head. "Like I said. Stupidest thing ever." She stood and moved to the food storage. But I guess it's also kind of brave, in an incredibly dumb way. You too hungry? Daeho felt something loosen in his chest. Relief, maybe. Very hungry. They ate together in the small galley. Hana slowly relaxed, even smiling a little when Mirai made a joke. It felt almost normal, almost like a family sharing a meal. But Daeho knew this peace would not last. The bounty hunters had been human, but the Velkari were looking for Hana too. Her mother's ship had been destroyed, but someone in the Velkari fleet knew she existed. Someone would keep searching. After Hana fell asleep in the crew quarters, Mirai joined Daeho in the cockpit. So what's the plan? She asked. Keep running forever? I don't know, Daeho admitted. I'm making this up as I go. That's clear. Mirai pulled up a star chart. There's a neutral station about 2 days from here. Sanctuary station, all species allowed, strictly neutral ground. Might be safe for a while. Nothing's safe forever. No, Mirai agreed. But maybe we can rest for a bit. Figure out the next move. Daeho looked at her. Why are you helping us? Mirai shrugged. Honestly, not sure. Maybe because I'm tired of this stupid war. Maybe because that kid deserves better than to be hunted her whole life. Or maybe I'm just as dumb as you. A small smile crossed Daeho's face, the first real smile in months. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We're not safe. Not by a long shot, she was right. As Mirai set course for Sanctuary Station, Daeho watched the stars stream past. Somewhere out there, people were hunting them, both humans and Velkari, both wanting to use Hana for their own purposes, both seeing her as a tool or a symbol instead of a child who had lost everything. Daeho would not let that happen. He had made a promise without words the day he pulled her from that wreckage. He would protect her, no matter what it cost, even if it cost everything. In the crew quarters, Hana cried out softly in her sleep. Another nightmare. Daeho went to her and sat beside her bunk. He spoke quietly in Velkari, the words awkward but sincere. Comforting words. Safe words. Hana's breathing slowed. She reached out in her sleep and grabbed his hand with her 4 fingers. Even unconscious, she held on tight. Daeho stayed with her until dawn, watching over the enemy's child who had become his daughter in everything but blood. Sanctuary Station hung in space like a massive wheel, lights glowing from thousands of windows. Ships of dozens of different species docked at its ports. Here the war stopped at the airlock. Here, ancient laws of neutrality protected everyone, or so they said. Daeho walked through the crowded corridors with Hana's hand in his. After 6 months together, she moved more confidently now. She wore a simple outfit that did not hide her purple skin. On Sanctuary Station, aliens were common. Nobody stared. Well, almost nobody. Appa, that human is watching us, Hana said quietly. Her Velkari accent was still strong, but her human language had improved dramatically. I know, Daeho replied. Ignore him. Just keep walking. They had been on the station for 3 days. Mirai had left them here, taking her ship to find work elsewhere. She promised to return, but Daeho knew better than to count on it. People had their own lives, their own problems. Daeho had found work in the station's maintenance section, fixing broken equipment for the insectoid Chithar who ran the place. The pay was terrible, but it was safe. Mostly Hana had started asking difficult questions lately. Why did your people attack us? She asked one night as they ate dinner in their small rented quarters. I don't know, Daeho admitted. I wasn't there when it started. By the time I arrived in that system, both sides were already fighting. But why fight at all? Because your people saw us as a threat. Because my people were scared of you. Because that's what species do when they meet in space, apparently. Hana looked sad. It's stupid. Yes, Daeho agreed. Very stupid. But the question stuck with him. Why had the war started? Who fired first? Did it even matter now after so much death? On the 4th day, Daeho met with an information broker named Quan. The broker was human, thin and nervous, with quick eyes that missed nothing. They met in a dark bar near the station's industrial section. Quan slid a datapad across the table. Found what you asked for, Quan said. Information about the Velkari ship that crashed. The one you found the kid in. Daeho took the pad and scrolled through the data. He froze when he saw the ship's registration. His blood ran cold. That can't be right. Quan nodded grimly. It's right. That was a command family transport. The woman who died? Her name was Yuna. She was the maid of Fleet Commander Jiwan. Fleet Commander? Daeho's voice trailed off. Jiwan, Quan repeated. The Butcher of New Terra. the Velkari officer who led the attack that killed 12,000 human colonists. One of the most feared commanders in their fleet. Daiho felt sick. He looked at the data pad again, hoping he had misread. But the information was clear. Hana was not just any Velkari child. She was the daughter of humanity's greatest enemy. And here's the really interesting part, Quan continued. Jiwon's mate, this Yuna woman, she was traveling with their daughter when they got caught in the crossfire. The transport was marked as civilian, but our forces hit it anyway. He paused, or maybe not accidentally. Some people think it was a deliberate strike. We killed a civilian transport? On purpose? Quan shrugged. War is messy. Command says it was an accident. Others say the target was intentional. Revenge for New Terra. Either way, Jiwon's mate died. The mate of another high Velkari officer, someone named Gitai, also died in that attack. Daiho's hands shook. Some of his friends had died at New Terra. Good people. He remembered getting the news, the anger he had felt, the desire for revenge. And now he was protecting the daughter of the woman responsible for their deaths. There's more, Quan said. Jiwon is looking for her daughter. She's been searching for 6 months. There are rumors she went quiet for a while, dealing with grief. But now she's active again. And she's hunting. Hunting for Hana. Hunting for whoever has Hana. She doesn't know her daughter survived. But she's following every lead. It's only a matter of time before she finds this station. Daiho paid Quan and left the bar. He walked through the station corridors in a daze. His mind spun with thoughts and doubts and questions. Should he have left Hana to die? No, she was a child, innocent, but was she innocent? She was the daughter of a monster. Did that matter? Yes, no. He did not know anymore. Daiho returned to their quarters. Hana was doing homework, learning human writing from an educational program. She looked up when he entered and smiled. Appa, look. I wrote my name in human letters. She showed him the screen. Hana. Simple and clear. Daiho's heart twisted. She called him Appa now without embarrassment. She trusted him completely. She had nightmares about losing her mother, but she also laughed at his jokes. She was learning to be comfortable in her own skin, again. And he had just learned that her mother was a war criminal, responsible for massacring thousands. That's very good, he said quietly. Hana's 4 eyes studied his face. She was perceptive. Something is wrong. No, just tired. You're lying. She set down the tablet. I can tell when you lie. Your face changes. Daiho sat down heavily. He should tell her. She deserved the truth. But how do you tell a child that her mother is a killer? That the war between their peoples is personal? Before he could speak, Hana asked, Is it about my mother? Daiho's head snapped up. What? I heard you talking to that man. Quan. I followed you. Hana looked down at her 4-fingered hands. I know who my mother is. What she did. I heard you say the names. New Terra. 12,000 dead. Hana. Are you going to leave me now? Her voice was small, broken. Because of what my mother did? Because I'm her daughter? Tears ran down her purple cheeks. All 4 eyes were wet with grief and fear. Daiho moved to her and knelt down. He took her hands in his. No, never. You are not responsible for what your mother did. You are not your mother. But she killed your people. Your friends, maybe. Yes, and my people killed your mother. Killed Yuna. The war has made everyone into killers. Daiho squeezed her hands gently. But you didn't kill anyone. You're just a kid who deserves to live, to be safe, to be happy. How can you still want me? After knowing? Because you're you. Not your mother. Not a symbol. Not a tool. Just Hana. Just my daughter. The word hung in the air. Daughter. He had not said it out loud before. Hana threw her arms around him and sobbed. Daiho held her close, his own eyes burning with unshed tears. The galaxy was tearing itself apart with war and hatred. But in this moment, all that mattered was this small person who needed him. Eventually, Hana cried herself to sleep. Daiho carried her to her bunk and covered her with a blanket. He stood watching her sleep, this alien child who had become the center of his world. A soft alarm chimed from his datapad. A message. Daiho opened it and his blood froze. It was from station security. A Velkari warship had just arrived. A massive battlecruiser called the Crimson Judgment, and its commander was requesting permission to dock. Fleet Commander Jiwon had found them. Daiho looked at sleeping Hana, then at the message. then back at Hana. His mind raced through options. They could run, try to steal a ship and escape before Jiwan docked. But where would they go? They had been running for 6 months. Eventually, running always ended, or he could stay, face Jiwan, return her daughter, and probably die for his crimes. Daeho sat down and put his head in his hands. He was so tired. Tired of running. Tired of looking over his shoulder. Tired of this impossible situation. But when he looked at Hana again, sleeping peacefully for once without nightmares, he knew what he had to do. He would stay. He would face Jiwan. He would return Hana to her mother, and he would make sure that whatever happened to him, Hana would be safe, protected, loved, even if her mother hated him. Even if returning her meant his death, because that was what fathers did. They protected their children. Even when it cost everything, especially then, Daeho stood and began preparing for the meeting that would decide everything. He cleaned himself up. He checked his few possessions. He wrote a letter to Hana, just in case, explaining everything, telling her how much she had changed his life, how proud he was of her. Outside the window, the Crimson Judgment docked with the station. The massive warship dwarfed every other vessel at the port. Purple lights glowed across its hull like angry eyes. Somewhere on that ship, Fleet Commander Jiwan was preparing to reclaim her daughter, and Daeho was preparing to face the monster he had spent 6 months protecting a child from. The war was about to become very personal. The neutral meeting chamber was located at the center of Sanctuary Station. Its walls were transparent, showing the stars and the ships docked outside. Ancient law said that no weapons could be drawn here. No violence could occur. The Chithar enforced this rule absolutely, but rules could not stop the tension that filled the air like electricity. Daeho stood in the center of the chamber. He wore his old uniform, cleaned and pressed. If he was going to face Jiwan, he would do it as Captain Daeho, not as a fugitive. Behind him, Hana held his hand so tightly her 4 fingers hurt him. She had insisted on coming. Daeho had tried to make her stay in their quarters, but she refused. "She's my mother," Hana had said stubbornly. "I need to see her." Around the chamber, Velkari soldiers in ceremonial armor stood at attention. Their weapons were holstered, but everyone knew they could draw them the moment they left this room. On the other side, a small group of human traders and workers had gathered, watching nervously. The door opened. Fleet Commander Jiwan entered. Daeho had seen pictures of Velkari before. He had fought against them, but nothing prepared him for Jiwan in person. She was tall, nearly 7 feet, with deep purple skin marked by silver tattoos that curved across her face and neck. Her 4 eyes were like chips of dark stone, hard and cold. She wore armor that seemed to flow like liquid metal, elegant and deadly at the same time. Her presence filled the room. When she moved, everyone's attention followed. She was terrifying, beautiful in an alien way, and radiating barely controlled fury. Jiwan's 4 eyes locked onto Hana. For a moment, the cold mask cracked. Emotion flooded her face. Relief, joy, pain. Then the mask returned harder than before. Her gaze shifted to Daeho. Those 4 eyes studied him like he was an insect under glass. When she spoke, her voice was deep and her human language was perfect, though heavily accented. "You are the human who has my daughter." It was not a question. "Yes," Daeho replied. He kept his voice steady despite his racing heart. "I should kill you where you stand, probably." Jiwan took a step closer. "You are Captain Daeho, court-martialed by your own people for desertion and treason, wanted by my people for theft and kidnapping. You are a criminal by any measure. Yes, and yet you stand here, not running, not begging. Why?" Daeho gestured to Hana. "Because she deserves better than to be fought over. She deserves to make her own choice about where she belongs." Jiwan's expression darkened. "You lecture me about my own daughter? You whose species murdered my mate?" Her voice grew louder. The transport was marked as civilian. Marked clearly. "Your people killed Yuna anyway, murdered her for revenge." The words hit Daeho like physical blows. "I know, and I'm sorry. That should never have happened. Sorry." Jiwan's laugh was bitter and sharp. "Sorry does not bring back the dead. Sorry does not heal what your people broke." "No," Daeho agreed. "Nothing can heal that. Nothing can bring back what we both lost. We both lost." Jiwan's 4 eyes blazed with anger. Do not pretend we are the same. My mate was innocent. She was a teacher. She helped children learn. She never hurt anyone. Your colonists at New Terra were what? Deho interrupted. Guilty? They were farmers, scientists, children, just like Yuna, just like everyone who dies in this war. Silence fell over the chamber. The two commanders stared at each other across the space. Two enemies. Two people drowning in grief and anger and guilt. Then Hana spoke. Her small voice cut through the tension like a knife. Alma. Mother Jiwan turned to her daughter. Her expression transformed completely. All the hardness melted away, replaced by desperate love and longing. Hana, my little star. Jiwan dropped to one knee, bringing herself closer to Hana's height. I thought I lost you. I thought you died with your mother. I almost did, Hana said softly. But he saved me, she pointed at Deho. He pulled me from the wreckage. He could have left me to die, but he didn't. Jiwan looked at Deho again, this time with confusion mixing with the anger. Why? Why save an enemy child? Because she needed help, Deho said simply. Because I'm a soldier, not a monster. Many would disagree with that assessment. Maybe, but that's what I choose to be. Hana took a step toward her mother, then stopped. She looked uncertain, torn. Amma, I missed you, but I'm also scared. Scared? Of me? Of what happens now? To him. Hana gestured at Daiho. He took care of me for 6 months. He gave up everything for me. He's good, Amma. He's really good. Jiwan's face tightened. He is the enemy. So am I, Hana said. To his people. But that didn't stop him from being kind. The chamber was silent except for the soft hum of the station's life support. Everyone waited to see what Jiwan would decide. Finally, the fleet commander stood. She looked at Deho with an expression he could not read. You saved my daughter's life. Yes. You protected her when you should have abandoned her. Yes. You taught her your language, kept her safe, cared for her. She made it easy. She's a good kid. Jiwan's 4 eyes studied him intently. My daughter trusts you. I can see it in how she stands near you. How she looks at you. She calls you Appa. Deho said nothing. What could he say? This presents a problem, Jiwan continued. I want to hate you. I want to blame you for everything wrong between our peoples. But you saved what I love most in this universe. She paused. And now my daughter is torn between 2 worlds. Between her blood family and the person who protected her. I never wanted that, Deho said. I just wanted her to be safe. I believe you. Jiwan's words surprised everyone in the room. Which is why I am making this command. You will come with us. You will board my ship. You will remain in my service until my daughter no longer needs you. Deho stared at her. You're taking me prisoner. No, you are joining my crew as a guardian, an advisor. Whatever title makes you comfortable. But you will not leave. Her voice hardened. This is not a request. This is a military order. I don't take orders from the Valkyrie fleet, you do now. Or I leave you here and take my daughter. And she spends the rest of her life wondering what happened to the human who saved her. Is that what you want? It was a trap and they both knew it. If Deho refused, Hana would suffer. If he accepted, he would be placing himself in the hands of his enemy. He looked at Hana. She was watching him with all 4 eyes wide and hopeful. Deho made his choice. The only choice he could make. I'll come. Relief flooded Hana's face. She ran to him and hugged him tightly. Then she ran to Jiwan and hugged her too. For a moment, the 3 of them stood together. A strange family born from war and loss and impossible circumstances. Jiwan placed one hand on her daughter's head. You are safe now, little star. I promise. Then she looked at Daiho over Hana's head. Her expression was complex. Gratitude mixed with suspicion. Respect mixed with hatred. She did not trust him. But she recognized what he had done. One rule, Captain, Jiwan said quietly. You try to harm my daughter, you try to use her against my people, you try to escape with her, I will kill you. Slowly, painfully. Do you understand? Yes, good. We leave in 1 hour. Gather your possessions. The meeting ended. Valkyrie soldiers escorted Deho and Hana back to their quarters. The humans in the chamber whispered among themselves, shocked by what they had witnessed. In their small room, Deho packed his few belongings. Hana sat on her bunk watching him. Are you scared? She asked. Terrified. Deho admitted. Me too. but also happy. I have you and Amma now. Deho knelt beside her. Listen to me. Your mother is a good person. She loves you very much. You should go to her. Trust her, even if things get complicated. Will things get complicated? Probably. I'm human. She's Velkari. Our peoples are at war. That's about as complicated as it gets. Hana nodded seriously. But we'll figure it out together. Together, Deho agreed, though he had no idea how. An hour later, they boarded the Crimson Judgment. The Velkari warship was massive inside, with corridors that seemed to stretch forever. Everything was designed for beings taller than humans. Deho felt small and out of place. Velkari crew members stopped to stare at him as he passed. Some looked curious. Most looked hostile. He was the enemy walking among them, the human who had somehow earned their commander's strange protection. Jiwan led them to a section of the ship near her own quarters. She showed Deho to a small room with a bunk, a desk, and a window showing the stars. You will stay here, she said. 2 guards will be posted outside at all times, for your protection as much as my security. And Hana, she will be in my quarters. Where she belongs, Hana hugged Deho. I'll see you tomorrow, Appa. Tomorrow, he promised. After they left, Deho sat on his bunk and put his head in his hands. He was aboard an enemy warship, surrounded by people who hated him. Dependent on the mercy of a commander whose mate his people had killed. He had just made the craziest decision of his life. But when he remembered Hana's smile, her relief at having both her parents near, he knew he would make the same choice again. Outside his window, Sanctuary Station grew smaller as the Crimson Judgment powered its engines and jumped into hyperspace. Deho was going home with the enemy, and somehow impossibly he was exactly where he needed to be. Life aboard the Crimson Judgment was strange and uncomfortable. The gravity was heavier than Earth normal, making Deho's muscles ache. The air had a metallic taste that took days to get used to. The light spectrum was slightly off, designed for Velkari eyes that saw more colors than human ones. Everything reminded Deho that he was not supposed to be here. His guards were named Tai Yang and Bora. Tai Yang was young for a Velkari, maybe equivalent to a human in their early 20s. His purple skin was lighter than most, and his 4 eyes were curious rather than hostile. He asked Deho questions constantly. Is it true humans only have 2 eyes? Tai Yang asked on the second day. Yes, Deho replied, amused despite himself. How do you see behind you? We turn our heads. That seems inefficient. Tai Yang's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. Do you miss having 4 eyes? I never had 4 eyes to miss them. Bora was different. She was older, with deep purple skin marked by scars from battle. She lost family when human forces attacked a Velkari colony. She made sure Deho knew this. She watched him with open hatred, her hand always near her weapon. Give me one reason, she said on the 3rd day. One reason not to kill you while you sleep. The commander's orders, Deho replied calmly. Orders can be misunderstood. Accidents happen. Then my death would be on your conscience, and Hana would cry. Is that what you want? Bora's expression hardened, but she said nothing more. She did not kill him, but she made sure he knew she wanted to. Deho saw Hana every day. Jiwan allowed them to spend several hours together, supervised. They ate meals in a small dining room. They played simple games. Deho helped Hana with her studies of both human and Velkari culture. The girl was thriving. Having her mother back had healed something broken inside her. She laughed more, slept better. The nightmares came less often. Watching her heal made everything worthwhile. Jiwan often joined them. At first she sat in silence watching Deho interact with her daughter, looking for threats, looking for manipulation, but gradually she began to participate. Appa taught me this game, Hana explained one day, showing her mother a simple card game. Jiwan's 4 eyes studied the cards. It seems designed to teach probability mathematics. It's designed to be fun, Deho corrected. The math is just a bonus. Humans teach mathematics through play. Good teachers do. Something shifted in Jiwan's expression. Not quite respect, but acknowledgement. You were a teacher before the military? No, but my mother was. She taught me that learning should not feel like punishment. My mate believed the same thing. Jiwan's voice grew quiet. Yuna taught young Velkari about Earth literature. She found your species fascinating. She said humans wrote with such emotion, such passion. The mention of Yuna created an uncomfortable silence. Hana looked down at her card, sadness crossing her young face. I wish I could tell her I'm sorry, Daeho said softly. For what my people did. Ji-won met his eyes. Would your sorry change anything? No, but it would be honest. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Ji-won asked one, what did your mother teach? History. She believed if we understood the past, we might not repeat its mistakes. And yet here we are, repeating the same cycles of violence. Yes, she would be very disappointed. Ji-won almost smiled. Almost. My mate would be disappointed in me as well. She believed peace was possible. I told her she was naive. Maybe she was right and we were wrong. Maybe. Over the following weeks, a routine developed. Daeho spent mornings with Hana. Afternoons he was allowed in the ship's library reading about Valkyrie history and culture. Evenings were interrogation sessions where Ji-won asked him questions about human military tactics, ship designs, and strategic thinking. He answered honestly. What was the point of lying? If Ji-won wanted to kill him, she would. If she wanted information, refusing would only make things worse. But the interrogations gradually became conversations. Your people expand too quickly, Ji-won observed during one session. You claim every planet you find. This threatens other species. Your people did the same thing for centuries, Daeho countered. You have an empire. That word means you took what belonged to others. That was different. We brought order, structure. We improved the worlds we claimed. That's what every empire tells itself. But conquest is still conquest, no matter how you justify it. Ji-won's 4 eyes narrowed. You are bold for a prisoner. You said I wasn't a prisoner. You said I was in your service. A convenient fiction to make Hana comfortable, is it? Because I'm starting to think you actually want someone who will tell you the truth. They stared at each other across the table. Then Ji-won did something unexpected. She laughed. It was a strange sound, musical and deep at the same time. You are either very brave or very stupid. Probably both, Daeho admitted. After that, the conversations became easier, more honest. They argued about the war, about politics, about culture. They disagreed on almost everything, but they listened to each other. One evening during dinner with Hana, the ship's alarm suddenly blared. Battle stations, an announcement declared in Valkyrie. Human attack force detected. Ji-won stood immediately. Stay here, she ordered Daeho and Hana. Guards will protect you. Wait, Daeho said. Let me help. Help? You are human. This is a human attack, which means I understand their tactics. I can advise you. Ji-won hesitated. Then she made a decision. Come. But if you betray me, my crew will kill you instantly. Understood. They ran to the bridge. Valkyrie officers worked frantically at stations that glowed with alien displays. On the main view screen, Daeho saw 3 human destroyers approaching fast. Analysis, Ji-won commanded. Suicide attack. An officer reported. They are using drone ships loaded with explosives. They will ram us, Daeho studied the enemy movements. He recognized the pattern. They're not trying to ram you. They're trying to disable your jump drive. See how they're positioning? They want to trap you here so the main fleet can arrive. Ji-won looked at him sharply. How do you know this? Because it's the Morgan maneuver, named after Admiral Morgan, who used it against Valkyrie forces at Kepler Station. Your people lost 4 ships to it. How do we counter it? Daeho's mind raced. He was helping the enemy defeat his own people. But if he did nothing, the Crimson Judgment would be destroyed. Hana would die. Ji-won would die. And for what? The war would continue either way. He made his choice. Rotate the ship 40 degrees starboard. Fire at the lead drone with everything you have. When it explodes, the debris will block the other drone's sensors for 3 seconds. Jump during those 3 seconds. Ji-won did not hesitate. She barked orders in Valkyrie. The ship rotated. Weapons fired. The lead drone exploded in a brilliant flash. Jump now, Daeho said. The Crimson Judgment jumped. Reality twisted and they were somewhere else, safe. The bridge crew stared at Daeho. He had just saved their lives by defeating his own species' attack. Ji-won approached him slowly. Her 4 eyes were unreadable. You just committed treason against your people. Yes, why? Because Hana is on this ship. And because, he paused, because maybe both our sides are wrong. Maybe we're all just following orders from people who want the war to continue. What do you mean? Daeho told her about the information broker on Sanctuary Station, about the rumors that the attack on the civilian transport was deliberate, about the suspicion that elements in both governments were profiting from the war. "You think this war is being manipulated?" Jiwon asked. "I think someone benefits from us hating each other, and I'm tired of being their tool." Jiwon was quiet for a long time. Then she dismissed her crew and spoke to Daeho alone. 6 months ago, I received intelligence about the transport carrying my mate. Intelligence that said it would be attacked. I did not believe it because the source claimed it would be our own people creating a false flag attack. I thought they were lying. Her voice broke slightly. I was wrong, and Yuna died because I did not believe my own people capable of such evil. And the human government probably has people doing the same thing, Daeho said, creating reasons to keep fighting. So what do we do? I don't know, but maybe we start by not being their puppets anymore. Jiwon looked at him with something like respect. You are different than I expected, Captain Daeho. So are you, Commander Jiwon. They stood together on the bridge, two enemies slowly becoming something else. Not quite friends, not quite allies, but maybe the beginning of understanding. Back in the dining room, they found Hana waiting anxiously with her guards. Are you okay? She asked, running to both of them. We are safe, Jiwon assured her. Thanks to your appa. Hana hugged them both. And for a moment, standing together, they looked almost like a family. A strange, impossible, completely illegal family. But a family nonetheless. Outside the ship, the war continued. But inside, something new was beginning. Something that might change everything. Velkar Prime was beautiful in a way that hurt to look at. 3 moons hung in the lavender sky. The oceans glowed with bioluminescent life that made the water shine like liquid stars. Cities of flowing architecture rose from the landscape, organic and elegant. Hana pressed her face against the window as the ship descended. Home, she whispered, but Daeho saw the tears on her cheeks. Coming home meant remembering what she had lost. Her other mother. The life that existed before the war destroyed everything. The Crimson Judgment landed at the capital city's military port. Velkari officials waited on the landing platform, along with honor guards in ceremonial armor. This was a formal arrival. Fleet Commander Jiwon returning with her recovered daughter, and with a human prisoner. That was how they would see Daeho. Stay close to me, Jiwon said quietly. The High Command will want to question you. Some will want you dead. Do not give them a reason. I'll be on my best behavior, Daeho promised. They walked down the boarding ramp together. Hana held both their hands, one human and one Velkari. The officials stared at this strange sight but said nothing. Not yet. A tall Velkari in elaborate armor approached. Her skin was darker than Jiwon's, almost black-purple, with gold tattoos marking her rank. Her 4 eyes were cold and calculating. Fleet Commander Jiwon, she said formally. I am Admiral Subin of the High Command. Welcome home. We are pleased you recovered your daughter. Her gaze shifted to Daeho, and captured an enemy officer. Captain Daeho is not a prisoner, Jiwon replied. He is under my protection. Subin's expression did not change, but Daeho sensed her disapproval. How unusual. The High Command will want to discuss this arrangement. I am sure they will. The ceremony continued. Speeches were given in Velkari that Daeho could only partly understand. Hana was welcomed home by officials who had never met her before, but pretended to care deeply. It was all politics and performance. Daeho watched Subin carefully. Something about the Admiral bothered him. The way she looked at Hana, the way she smiled without warmth. He had learned to recognize predators during the war. Subin was definitely a predator. After the ceremony, they went to Jiwon's family home. It was a beautiful dwelling on the edge of the capital, with gardens that grew plants Daeho had never seen before. But the house felt empty, haunted by the absence of Yuna. Hana walked through the room slowly, touching things. Her old toys, her mother's books. Everything was exactly as she had left it, preserved like a shrine. I forgot how it smelled, Hana said quietly. I forgot the sound of the wind chimes in the garden. Jiwon knelt beside her daughter. We can change anything you want. Make new memories. Can we bring Appa inside? He looks uncomfortable standing in the doorway. Jiwon turned to Daeho. Come in. You are a guest in my home. Daeho stepped inside carefully. Everything was designed for beings taller than him. He felt like a child in an adult's house. That night, Hana insisted they all eat dinner together. It was awkward and strange, but also almost normal. They talked about small things. The food, the weather, Hana's plan to return to school. They did not talk about the war. They did not talk about the future. Some conversations were too difficult for dinner. The next day, Ji-won was summoned to the high command. She left Hana with trusted guards and took Daeho with her. "Why am I coming?" he asked. "Because they will want to see you. Better you are with me than locked in a cell somewhere." The high command building was massive and imposing. Inside, Velkari officers moved with purpose through halls decorated with military honors and battle flags. Many stopped to stare at Daeho. A human walking freely here was unthinkable. The council chamber was circular with seats rising in tiers. A dozen high-ranking Velkari officials sat in judgment. Admiral Subin sat at the center, leading the proceedings. "Fleet Commander Ji-won," Subin began formally, "you have returned to us after months of searching for your daughter. We are glad she has been recovered, but we have concerns about your companion." "Captain Daeho saved my daughter's life," Ji-won stated firmly. "He protected her when he could have abandoned her. He deserves our respect." "He is the enemy," another official declared. "He should be interrogated, used for intelligence, then executed as a war criminal. He has committed no war crimes. He exists. That is crime enough." Daeho stood silently, letting them talk about him like he was not there. He had expected this. Hatred was easier than understanding, but then something happened that changed everything. A Velkari officer burst into the chamber, his 4 eyes wide with panic. "Forgive the interruption, but there has been an attack. At the welcoming ceremony yesterday." The security footage shows Subin stood quickly. "This is a closed session. You will wait." "Someone tried to kill Ji-won's daughter," the officer blurted out. The human was the target, but the child was the actual goal. The assassin wanted to kill her and frame the human for it. Silence fell over the chamber. Every eye turned to Daeho, then to Ji-won, then to Subin. Ji-won's voice was dangerously quiet. "Show me the footage." They played the security recording on a large display. Daeho watched himself walking down the boarding ramp with Hana and Ji-won. In the crowd, barely visible, a figure raised something that looked like a weapon. Then the angle changed. The figure was caught on a different camera, Velkari, wearing a military uniform, aiming at Hana. The shot never came because another guard had accidentally stepped into the line of fire at the last second. "Who is that soldier?" Ji-won demanded. The intelligence officer checked his datapad. "Private Dong-ha, assigned to Admiral Subin's personal guard." All eyes turned to Subin. The admiral's expression remained calm, but Daeho saw the calculation behind her eyes. She was trying to figure out how to escape this. "I assure you I knew nothing about this," Subin said smoothly. "If this soldier acted against orders, he will be punished severely." "Arrest him," Ji-won ordered. "I want him questioned, now!" But before guards could move, another officer entered the chamber. "Admiral Subin, there is a problem. Private Dong-ha has been found dead in his quarters. Apparent suicide, too convenient, too quick." Daeho's military instincts screamed that this was wrong. Ji-won clearly felt the same. "Confine Admiral Subin to quarters pending investigation." "You cannot confine me," Subin protested. "I am a member of the High Command." "You have no authority." "I have the authority to protect my daughter," Ji-won said coldly. "And someone just tried to kill her. Until we know who ordered it, everyone is suspect." The council chamber erupted in argument. Some officials supported Ji-won, others defended Subin. It was chaos. Daeho caught Ji-won's eye and gestured toward the door. She nodded slightly. They needed to get back to Hana. Now. They ran through the corridors. Daeho's heart pounded. If assassins were targeting Hana here, on Velkar Prime, then nowhere was safe. They arrived at Ji-won's home to find it surrounded by security forces. Taeyang stood at the door, his weapon drawn. "Is Hana safe?" Ji-won demanded. "Yes, Commander. We secured the house immediately when we heard about the threat." Inside, they found Hana playing with her old toys, unaware of how close she had come to death. When she saw them, she smiled. "Appa, Alma, look what I found." My old Ji-won pulled her into a tight embrace. "I need you to listen carefully, little star. We are going somewhere safer. Pack only what you can carry quickly." Hana's 4 eyes widened. "What happened?" "Someone tried to hurt you yesterday. We stopped them, but we need to be more careful." "Who would want to hurt me?" Daeho knelt beside her. "People who want the war to continue. You're a symbol, Hana. You represent the possibility that our people can coexist. Some people hate that idea. Later that night, after Hana was asleep in a secure location, Jiwon and Daeho sat together reviewing intelligence reports. Subin has connections to military contractors, Jiwon said quietly. Companies that build weapons, ships, they profit enormously from the war. And if the war ended, they would lose everything, Daeho added. We have the same problem on Earth, companies that need conflict to survive. Your information broker was right. This war is being manipulated by people who profit from our hatred. So what do we do? Jiwon looked at him. We expose them. All of them. Both our sides. We show our people who really benefits from this endless fighting. That will make us targets. Both governments will want us silenced. Yes, but if we do nothing, Hana will never be safe. Children on both sides will keep dying. The war will continue until we destroy each other. Daeho thought about the crew members he had lost. The friends who died believing they were protecting humanity. What would they think of him now? Working with the enemy to expose corruption on both sides. But then he thought about Hana, about every child caught in this war, about all the Yunas and Gitais and nameless civilians killed for politics and profit. How do we start? He asked. Jiwon pulled up files on her display. I have been collecting evidence for months. Ever since Yuna died and I began to suspect the truth. Messages, financial records. Orders that do not make sense unless you understand they are designed to perpetuate conflict. I can get information from human intelligence networks. People who owe me favors, people who are tired of the war. They worked through the night building their case. 2 enemies becoming allies. 2 soldiers becoming something more than warriors. Outside the window, Velkar Prime's 3 moons shone down on a world at war. But inside, 2 people were planning peace. Or at least they were planning to give peace a chance. Even if the plasma bolt hit Daeho in the chest, he felt the impact like being struck by a hammer. Heat. Pain. Then, he was falling. The last thing he saw before darkness took him was Hana's face, safe, alive. That was what mattered. Woke up 3 days later in a Velkari medical facility. Every part of his body hurt. Machines beeped around him, monitoring his vital signs in ways he did not understand. His chest was wrapped in something that pulsed with gentle warmth. Jiwon sat beside his bed. She looked exhausted. Her 4 eyes were rimmed with what might have been tears, though Daeho had never seen a Velkari cry before. You are awake, she said quietly. Hana, his voice was rough and painful. Safe. You saved her life. Again. Good. Daeho tried to sit up, but pain shot through his chest. He gasped and fell back. Do not move. The doctors had difficulty treating you. Human physiology is different from ours. Your wound was... Jiwon's voice broke slightly. You almost died, but I didn't. No. You are too stubborn, apparently. Daeho managed a weak smile. Someone had to look after Hana. She has not left the medical center. She sits outside your room every day waiting for you to wake. She calls you her Appa constantly. She says if you die, she will never forgive us. Us? Me, the Velkari. Everyone. She has become quite fierce in her anger. A soft knock on the door interrupted them. Hana entered slowly, her 4 eyes wide and worried. When she saw Daeho awake, she ran to his bedside. Appa, you're okay. She grabbed his hand carefully, avoiding the medical equipment. I'm okay, little one. Just tired. You jumped in front of the weapon. For me, why did you do that? Because that's what parents do. We protect our children. Hana burst into tears. I was so scared. I thought you were going to die like my other mother. I thought I would lose you both. Daeho squeezed her hand gently. I'm not going anywhere. I'm too stubborn, remember? Over the next week, as Daeho recovered, the investigation continued. Evidence mounted against Admiral Subin and her network of co-conspirators. They had been profiting from the war for years. They had manipulated events on both sides to keep the conflict going. The attack on the civilian transport that killed Yuna, ordered by Subin, disguised as a human strike. The attacks on human colonies? Some were legitimate military targets, but others were false flags designed to inflame hatred. The web of lies and murder went deep, very deep. And it existed on both sides. Daeho provided intelligence from his contacts in human space. Names, evidence, financial records. The human military had its own version of Subin. Multiple versions, actually. Generals and politicians who needed the war to maintain their power and wealth. How do we reveal this? Jiwan asked during one of their planning sessions. If we go public, they will kill us. Both governments will want us silenced. Then we go very public, Daeho said. So public they cannot silence us without making things worse. They created a detailed report. Hundreds of pages of evidence, communications, financial transactions, orders that proved the conspiracy. They made copies and sent them to journalists on both sides, to politicians known for honesty, to military officers who had questioned the war. Then they did something unprecedented. They called a joint press conference on Sanctuary Station, the neutral ground where they had first met. Hundreds of journalists attended. Human and Velkari, other species too, curious about what these two unlikely allies had to say. Daeho and Jiwan stood together at the podium. Behind them, on a massive display, they showed the evidence. Names, faces, crimes. We are Captain Daeho of Earth and Fleet Commander Jiwan of Velkar Prime. Jiwan began. We are enemies by birth and circumstance, but we stand here today united by truth. Daeho continued. For the past year, we have been investigating who benefits from this war. What we found shocked us both. Elements within our governments have been deliberately perpetuating the conflict for profit. They laid it all out. Every piece of evidence, every crime. The journalists asked questions. Some were hostile. Many were skeptical. But the evidence spoke for itself. Near the end of the conference, a human journalist asked, Captain Daeho, you saved an enemy child. You protected her for months. You even took a plasma bolt for her. Why? What made you care about a Velkari life? Daeho looked at Hana, who sat in the front row between Taiyang and Bora. Her 4 eyes watched him hopefully. Because she needed help. He said simply, because children should not pay for the mistakes of adults. Because if we cannot protect each other's young, then we are already lost as species. Another journalist asked Jiwan, Commander, you were known as a fierce warrior. Some humans called you the Butcher of New Terra, but you allowed an enemy to live on your ship, to advise you, to be part of your family. Why? Jiwan's answer was quiet but firm. Because he saved what I love most in this universe. Because he showed me that honor and compassion are not weaknesses. Because my mate, who died in this war, believed peace was possible. I owe it to her memory to try. The conference ended. Within hours, the story spread across both civilizations. Protests erupted. Demands for investigations. Calls for peace talks. Subin and her network were arrested. Human counterparts faced similar charges. The war did not end overnight. Wars never do. But something fundamental had shifted. A week later, representatives from both governments met for the first time in neutral territory. Real peace talks. Not the manipulated negotiations that had failed before, but genuine attempts to end the killing. Daeho and Jiwan were not invited to the official talks. They were too controversial, too dangerous to the old power structures, but they had done their part. They had lit the spark. Others would have to keep the fire burning. Earth's government offered Daeho full reinstatement. All charges dropped. A promotion, a medal, a chance to be a hero in the propaganda war. He refused. I'm not interested in being anyone's symbol, he told the official who came with the offer. I'm staying where I'm needed. With the enemy? With my family. Jiwan created a new position for him. Not prisoner, not guest, something else entirely. The official title was Cultural Liaison and Strategic Advisor. The unofficial title was much simpler. Hana's other parent, they formed a joint task force, Velkari and humans working together to hunt down war criminals on both sides, to investigate false flag operations, to prevent the conspirators from regaining power. It was dangerous work. Both governments watched them with suspicion. Hardliners on both sides wanted them dead, but they persisted. 6 months after the press conference, they returned to Velkar Prime. The political situation had stabilized enough that they could live there openly. Daeho was still alien, still other. But he was also respected by many Velkari who had learned the truth. Hana enrolled in a new school, one that accepted both human and Velkari students, an experimental program designed to teach the next generation to see each other as people, not enemies. On her first day, Hana wore her school uniform nervously. Both Daeho and Jiwan walked her to the gates. What if the other kids don't like me? She asked. What if they hate me because I have a human parent? Then they are fools, Jiwan said firmly. And you are better than them. But what if I don't fit in anywhere? Too Velkari for humans, too human for Velkari. Deho knelt down to her level. Then you'll be something new. Something better. A bridge between worlds. Hana hugged them both. I love you. Both of you. We love you too, little star, Jiwon said softly. They watched her walk into the school, joining a group of students, some human, some Velkari, all nervous about this new experiment in coexistence. Daeho and Jiwon stood together at the gates long after Hana disappeared inside. Do you ever regret it? Jiwon asked quietly. That day you pulled her from the wreckage? Daeho thought about everything that had happened. The court-martial, the months of running, nearly dying from the plasma bolt, becoming a target for extremists on both sides. Every soldier regrets something, he said finally. But saving her? Never. She saved me right back. How did she save you? She reminded me why we fight. Not for territory or politics or profit. For the people we love. For the future we want them to have. Jiwon nodded slowly. They stood in comfortable silence, watching ships pass overhead. Human and Velkari vessels no longer firing at each other. Still wary, still separate, but no longer at war. The order stands, Captain, Jiwon said with the hint of a smile. You are not permitted to leave. Understood, Commander. Wouldn't dream of it. Their hands almost touched. Not quite. They were still complicated. Still professional in public. Still navigating what they were becoming, partners in peace. Co-leaders of the Joint Task Force. Parents to a child who bridged two species. And maybe, possibly, something more. Something neither of them was quite ready to name yet. But they had time. For the first time in over a year, they had time. That evening, they picked up Hana from school. She talked excitedly about her day. About new friends, both human and Velkari. About a teacher who told them they were making history just by sitting in the same classroom. At home, they ate dinner together. Jiwon cooked traditional Velkari food. Daeho made human dessert. Hana ate both happily, declaring herself lucky to have 2 cultures, 2 languages, 2 of everything. After Hana went to bed, Daeho and Jiwon sat on the balcony overlooking the glowing ocean.